Hey everybody, welcome to the Networker's Quest. Matt and Collette here. We're excited to review with everyone today our budget template that we referred to in another video that we did where we talked about our mindset and what it looked like for us to get out of debt. And today we're going to walk through that template and break it down piece by piece, and we're going to use an illustration. We're going to use a character, I guess you could say. We're going to use Sarah, and we're going to talk about Sarah. Let's say Sarah just graduated university. She just got a job, she works in the city, and she's got a debt load now of $38,000. And so we're going to walk back and forth with some of the information we did in our last video. We're going to pretend we know Sarah's expenses, and we're going to quickly crack down all the math so you have an idea of what it can look like for you to be able to pay off your debt. And once again, the material that we're reviewing today, it's very simple, and you can find it a lot in personal finance books. I know we referenced Dave Ramsey. He's an individual. We also referenced last time a cool TV show. I'm sure you can see some reruns if it's not on anymore, called Till Debt Do Us Part. And that's the template we're going to be using today.
Yeah, we're really excited. Welcome to the Networker's Quest. We're really excited for you to join us today. This is essentially how Matt and I were able to pay off $85,000 of debt in about 2.5 years. So showing you the template that we used, and of course, you know, there's probably many other templates out there, but we want to be able to give you how we've went about paying off our debt and give you some strategy and tools as to help you on your debt-free journey.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're excited to uncover Sarah's budget and with you and do this all together. And then so that way you can follow along at home and you can go step by step reviewing your budget and just kind of inputting what works for you and putting in all your numbers and having a plan, which is really exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, hon, you want to grab the markers and we'll hop to it. So you can imagine that this would be essentially your sheet, blank sheet at home. So at the top, we're going to say that it's Sarah's budget. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down what Sarah takes home in a month from being a pharmacist. On a bi-weekly level, we're going to say that she gets paid every 2 weeks, and we're going to work with the number that she takes home. So of course, after taxes. So here we can see that Sarah, every 2 weeks, on the 1st and on the 15th, she's making $2,000. That's what she's taking home. So the next step, we're going to identify what are Sarah's fixed expenses every 2 weeks. So like we chatted about in the last episode that we did, we talked about how there's fixed expenses, which are fixed, so like rent, cell phone bill, electrical bill, those kind of things. And then at the bottom, we'll chat about variable expenses, which can of course vary. Yes. So we have fixed expenses, hon.
Yeah, so a fixed expense, once again, comes out regularly. So Sarah's rent comes out on the 1st of every single month. Sarah has a roommate. Let's say that she pays, so she's only paying $800 for her rent, her portion. Yeah. Sarah also has a cell phone bill, so that is something that comes out every month. Sarah's cell phone, let's say, is $100. We also have on this, the first half of the month is this Sarah's student loan payment.
So what we're working with here when we talk about minimum payments are her debtors and what she owes to them every single month. Typically it's going to be reoccurring, but we're just working with that minimum payment.
And let's say it's $500. And the last one is her internet on this half.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Girl's got to have her Wi-Fi.
And let's say it's $50.
Totally.
Hopping over to the second half of the month, we have her Visa minimum payment of $100. Sorry, I'm trying not to talk at the board.
Those markers smell good. No.
No, they don't. Car insurance. How much is her car insurance, hon?
$200 for Sarah's car insurance.
$200, okay. Then we have car payment. Sarah could have a Ford Edge, I don't know, but
oh dear,
she could.
$700 a month.
And that's a $700 a month monthly payment for her car payment and a gym membership. And I believe that's $50.
It is. So this is what it looks like for her fixed expenses. And now all you would have to do is add in other expenses that you would have. We're just once again coming up with the idea of Sarah Most people, of course, are paying rent, they're paying cell phone, they might have a gym membership. But if it looks different for you and your gym membership is $60, you can just rub this out and then put in 60 and do the math in accordance to what it would be for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to draw a line here, and we're going to now talk about variable expenses. Variable expenses are things that can vary in the run of a month. So things like your gas, your groceries, and what Matt and I referred to in our last video about our fun accounts, our entertainment account, anything that is actually not a part of the fixed and is not something that you absolutely have to pay in order to live. For example, groceries and gas. Yeah. Those are things that are necessities in order for you to everyday life. But variables can be things like getting your nails done or going to the movies. It's your fun account. Your fun variable is what that looks like. So right. We're going to talk about variables. Now, when it comes to variables, we really truly believe that a cash envelope system is the absolute number one most important thing with your budget in order to keep on track, and so that you're not recklessly spending or tapping yes. everywhere you go and losing track of how much you're spending in the run of a month. So we really found that having a cash envelope system really improved us staying diligent to our budget.
Absolutely. So if we look at Sarah's variable spending, we know that what it looks like for her to drive around the city, go to work, so forth and so on a bi-weekly time period is $100 every 2 weeks. And so what we would encourage Sarah to do is take that $100, like Collette mentioned, put it in an envelope. Once she got paid on the first half, take that $100, put it in a jar. On the second half, put it in a jar, and always use that cash as opposed to using tap, as opposed to using plastic cards if she's having a hard time staying on track and memorizing what it is she's actually spending. Because the goal here is to find out down here what her income circle looks like. So when everything's paid off, what's left over at the end of the month, so we can take that and really start to put a dent and eliminate that debt.
Absolutely. So like Matt said, her gas every 2 weeks is $100. Her food and grocery spending is about $250 every 2 weeks. And her fun account, this is really where the rubber meets the road. How quickly do you want to get out of debt? How quickly do you want to streamline? And so we said that Sarah is going to take out $100 and only use $100 for fun every 2 weeks.
Yes. Okay. And this is something that's super important, because for myself and Collette, when we were excited to get out of debt, what we would do is you'd have this money, and if somebody then asked us to come out, or maybe our friends were going on a trip, if we had already used these amounts, well, now it's time for the willpower to kick in. And that's the toughest part about getting out of debt. That's the grind, that's the hustle. It's when your friends call you and say, hey, we're going to the club, or hey, we're going to the movie, but you already got this money used, and now you gotta say, hey, listen, I'm gonna stay in tonight, or what it might look like for you. This is really the willpower aspect that has to come into play.
Right. So I'm gonna draw a line once again. Okay, and if you tally up and add up all of your columns, essentially, on the first half of the month, Sarah ends up spending, I believe it's $1,900.
Correct.
Okay, and on the second half, she ends up spending $1,500. So on the first half, after she takes some $2,000, she has all of her living and her food, her gas, her fun account, everything's accounted for the first half. Sarah should have a positive $100 on this side. On this side of the month, on this second half of the month, Sarah should have a total of $500 positive left over. Okay? So a cash flow at the end of the month of grand total of $600.
Boom.
If that makes sense. Okay? So now we're going to start talking about how to pay off your debtors. What does that look like? The order of importance, as well as taking this amount of money, and we're going to calculate how much, we're going to calculate how much time it will take Sarah to get out of debt by only using this $600 and to accumulate and be able to pay off her debt. Now, if Sarah chooses to go and make more money somehow and get a second job, or sell things around her house, anything that we kind of mentioned in our first video, then this bubble will grow, which essentially may speed things up a bit, which is great.
Absolutely.
So, Matt, do you want to talk about like the important
Order?
the order? Yeah.
Absolutely. So what Colette's going to do is she's going to write down Sarah's debtors in order from the least amount owing to the most amount owing. So to give you a quick rundown of what Sarah owes, Sarah has a Visa with a balance of $2,000. She also has a car loan of $16,000. She just brought a brand new vehicle maybe. And she also has a student loan of $20,000. So the Visa is the smallest balance, so we're going to put it at the top, of course. Then we've got the car loan, then we've got the student loan. So now the reason we do this is very important. This is the strategy behind everything. It's because we're going to take this cash flow, this $600, and we're not going to sprinkle it over all of the debtors, which is what myself and Collette would do all the time until we got educated really on a strategy, on a tactic to be able to help us get out of debt. And when you do that, it's really hard to keep up. So a laser-focused approach, what we're going to see here is Sarah's going to be able to pay off this Visa quicker than if she was just sprinkling this $600, which what we want then to happen is it's going to free up this minimum payment, which then comes back into the income circle, which we'll chat about. But you want to list your debtors least amount to most amount.
Absolutely. And the one thing we also mentioned in our last video that we'll mention again, before Sarah starts to really take the $600 and hammer off some of these debtors, is that we really believe it's important to have an emergency fund of whatever amount that makes sense for you and your family. For us, it was about $1,000. And so we would take that $1,000 and we would have the emergency fund here as the first thing. And then we would, after that is in place, we would start to then pay off all of our debtors so that if something were to happen, we're not putting the money back on credit cards, the credit card that we just paid off.
That's right.
Because that's a bummer. So nobody wants that. So we're going to do some math and show you how we've been able to calculate everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this $600 and we're going to, at the end of the month, and we're going to funnel it into the $2,000, her first debtor, which is the Visa of $2,000. Now, what the math looks like on this is that Sarah has $600, but she's also making a Visa payment of $100 a month. So there's total potential here for her to take $700 every month and put it towards this Visa to pay it off.
Correct.
So it's the $600 plus the Visa, her minimum payment of $100. So we have, I'm just going to write down the math here. So $2,000, divide that by $700, and that equals 2.8. What that represents is the months. Makes sense. It would take in order to pay off this $2,000. Okay, so 2.8 months. Okay?
You bet.
Now, once that is eliminated, once the Visa is eliminated, she gets rid of the debtor. She now has accumulated this Visa minimum payment of $100, and this grows now, instead of $600, this is now $700.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's go to the next one. So $700, so her car loan is $16,000. So if you do 16,000, divide that by, she has a cash flow of $700. Now she's also making a car payment of $700. So total, every single month, she can put a total of $1,400 towards her car payment, which is awesome. That's really great. So the $1,400, that is going to end up being 11.4 months. I'll put M for months. Okay? Matt, do you want to talk about the third one?
Absolutely. So now what we're going to do with the student loan is we're going to check out what our new income circle is. So of course now we had the $700 that we had originally, but we've also recouped this $700 car payment. And so you can start to see the momentum build. We've heard this before called a snowball method, and you can start to see why we would call it that. You think the snowball rolling down a hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We'll run from a $600 income circle, now it was $700, now we're at $1,400. So it's a lot more energy essentially that you can take, a lot more cash, and you can inject it into that debtor. So now we take that $1,400, we put it into the student loan of $20,000, And now all of a sudden, and we have, of course, the student loan payment
Yes.
over here of $500,
Right.
which gives us $1,900 every single month that we can put now towards the student loan, which means that in 10.5 months, that student loan would be fully paid off,
Which is awesome.
which is incredible.
Yeah. So, really, like Matt said, the snowball keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because the tendency that like is so tempting when you're paying off debt is that when you get back $700 because you paid off this car payment,
That's right.
the tendency is to take that $700 and put it up here. And start to use it within your fun or within, more trips or other things that you can do. And we think that if you could just stay focused, stay strategic, you can really do a really more quick, fast job on getting out of debt sooner and living a debt-free lifestyle, which is really awesome.
Absolutely.
So like I said, so $20,000 divided by 1,900 because we had the 14 plus the 500 student loan payment, which is 1,900. Equals 10.5 months. So now let's add up all of these months to see how long it will take Sarah to get out of debt. So we have 2.8 plus 11.4 plus 10.5. I believe it equals 2, right, hon?
So what we have is we have a total of 24.7 months. And if we divide that by 12 months in a year, we have 2 and a little bit. So essentially, if Sarah was to stay track on this budget, then she could be completely debt-free, pay off $38,000 of garbage consumer debt in a little over 2 years, which is a very exciting place to be. And the other thing that's so important to take note here is now, because she's got rid of these minimum payments that were eating her up, her income circle, so after the end of the month, when she's on track on a budget, she's paying everything off, she's got her fund account, she's got her food, she's got her gas, she now has an extra $1,900 in her bank account, which is almost equal to one of her payments that she gets from her work on a bi-weekly cycle.
Yeah.
So essentially, Sarah here, just coming out of school, just getting a vehicle, starting in the workforce, half of her take-home income was going to debt payments.
Yeah.
And that's the norm for a lot of people today.
That was our story.
That was our story. We were getting eaten alive by debt payments.
Yeah, no
Absolutely.
kidding. So this is how you can use this template, make it your own, put your numbers in, and you can make it as I guess, gritty as you want. You can grind it out in terms of when it really comes down to the fund account, you can choose your amount, you can really work with this, and it's really exciting because what Matt and I did was we really like to keep on track. Once again, we talked every single week about this and making sure that we're on the same page, making sure that nothing is kind of getting out of whack. But we were also able to, we actually wrote this on a piece of paper and we photocopied it. And then every single month we just checked things off just to make sure that we were just keeping on track and not missing anything. Our piece of paper, we had, it was down to down here. So all the debtors, we had about 10 debtors, so there was a lot more to keep track of. But this is just a basic example of what it can look like for you to be able to get out of debt and live that debt-free lifestyle, which we hope for everyone. So
absolutely. And I think one other important thing to keep in mind is that it's not always going to look perfect. No. And so you have to count the little wins along the way. You put a little bit of money on your Visa, you put a bit of money on your car loan, you take that income circle and you start to apply it month after month. But of course, sometimes the mistress of misery might knock on the door and you might get flat tires, and then you have to buy new tires, and it could set you back a couple of months. These are definitely all rough numbers, so we have an idea of what's possible, but sometimes, of course, life can happen, and it's just important not to beat yourself up if you fall off.
Yeah.
It's important to always count your wins and stay motivated, so that way you're inching forward. Myself and Collette, if we had stuck to our budget through and through every single month, because of course we made mistakes, we probably could have paid our debt off in maybe 2 years as opposed to 2.5 years. But when we messed up here and there, instead of really getting down on each other, instead of really being sad and dwelling, we said, okay, it's a learning experience. Let's start the brand new month and let's be better this month. And that way, of course, you can start to move closer to that goal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we appreciate you watching The Networker's Quest. I'm going to give you the rundown of where you can find more content like this. You're most likely watching this video right now on YouTube, the YouTube channel. You can also check out our podcast, So we're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on Podbean. You can also check out us on Facebook, so the Networkers Quest on Facebook. You can check out our blog at Networkers Quest, and that's on what's called Medium. We've actually just posted a couple of blog posts to do with finances, and you can follow us on Instagram as well at Matt and Collette, or you can check out the Networkers Quest on Instagram at Networkers Quest. And the last thing, of course, is you can follow us on Periscope. And so right now we have the behind the scenes footage going on Periscope. And so if you have that app, if you like live streaming, then that's at Matt and Collette as well. So we hope that this episode, we hope that this simple budget template brought you some value. If you could please like and subscribe or give us a review, that would mean the world to us. It really is our oxygen. But we hope that this brought some value. Bye for now.
See you, everyone.